Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to my channel Bookables. Today I am doing a recent reads video for you today. So today I'm talking about 4 books that, you guessed it, I've read recently, share with you what they are about, what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them, and my rating. As always, it will be spoiler free and I will leave timestamps down below for each particular book that I'm talking about today. So today's books I'm talking about today come from all different genres. So the books, like I said, I'll be talking about today is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Madana, Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young, Angelika Frankensten Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. Like I said, timestamps will be down below in case you want to hear about one particular book, but without further ado, let's get into it. The first book I'll be talking about today is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This was an amazing book. I hate the title because it's so lengthy. I had an e-arc in NetGalley, which is like a site where you can request e-arcs, and I was planning to read it, but I didn't I don't know. But then the cover drew my eye, and I was like, I'll check it out. You know, it's getting to be fall. I think I read this was my first read in September, and I was blown away by it. I'm sure I will not be the first one, nor the last one to tell you that if you love the book, The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, you will love this book. They are very, very similar. Like, this is kind of the spring-summer one, and this one's the fall-winter one. Oh, it's amazing. So in this book, we have a character named Micah, and Micah is a witch. And if you're a witch, you have to keep it very secretive. You know, you can't really go about talking about it, even though I don't think a lot of people do. So she's in like kind of a group where these group of witches, they meet like every few months, like in a very secret place, like talk about things, and then they never talk to each other again because you can't even converse with other witches. Like, you can't be around it. Like, you know, it's kind of very isolating. And then Micah gets this like letter saying, hey, can you please come to this house and teach these 3 young girls that are witches how to control their powers because we don't know how to do it. And she's like, what the heck? That's odd. And so she goes and she really learns that there's these 3 siblings that are young witches and their powers are really growing, but they don't really know how to manage them. And Micah knows she should not take this opportunity because it's like a rule to like not have all these witches together because the power could get too much and you can't really converse with other witches. But she just really feels drawn to these little girls and she feels like she spent most of her life isolated, so she should help them. And so she does just that. She moves into this house called the Nowhere House, where she teaches these young girls how to be witches and control their power. There's a librarian there named Jamie who she may or may not fall in love with, and it is just so cozy. I loved it. It is a book that took me by surprise of how much I loved it. It's like a warm hug. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Highly recommend it. Like I said, it's got the witchy vibes and it's just about found family and it's just overly happy, and it's just so great. It's a perfect time to read it too because, you know, when you think witches, you always think of Halloween and fallish, but this one's just so warm and happy and just, oh, I enjoyed it so much. I could definitely see that it's going to get a lot of buzz soon with good reason because of those things that I mentioned. It's just such a happy book. Like, I love it. I can guarantee when you read this, when you finish it, you're just gonna have a huge smile on your face because it's just so heartwarming. So trust you me, if you take any recommendations from this video, take this one. It's a great one. It's one that I think that will kind of maybe go under the radar, but I hope it doesn't. I hope it blows up much like The House in the Cerulean Sea did because it's like its sister book, honestly. Next up, we have Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This is my 3rd Alice Feeney book. Alice Feeney writes adult mystery thrillers, and this is another perfect one to read this time of year because, as you can tell by the cover, it's kind of like dark and kind of atmospheric, and it is great. So this book is like a take on an Agatha Christie novel in particular, And Then There Were None, which is an Agatha Christie novel I have read. I've read 2 now. I know. But I really enjoyed it, And Then There Were None. So I was very excited to see how Alice Feeney was going to do a different take on it because it's definitely a source material that's been adapted a lot. Sometimes decent, sometimes not, and I really enjoyed this one. I would also give this one a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I didn't give it a 5 out of 5 is because I definitely saw the ending coming very, very early on and could guess things, but I think that kind of comes with the source material, And Then There Were None, because I think you just kind of know. So I don't want to like overly tell you what that book's about if you haven't read it or if you haven't heard about it somehow. Then go into it blind. But if you've already read And Then There Were None, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together with this book, if you get my drift. So in this book, we have a character named Daisy Darker, and she goes to her grandmother's house because it's like her 80th birthday, Nana's 80th birthday, and she lives on like this house on this really small island that, like, when the tide goes in or out, I forget something else, like they're stuck there for the whole night, and it's kind of dark and dreary and stuff like that. And so she goes to her Nana's house. Her mom ends up there. Her dad's there. Her two sisters are there. And also the guy that she like had a crush on when she was younger. And basically at the strike of midnight, Nana is found dead. And then hour by hour, someone is found dead. Much like And Then There Were None. So you have Daisy and her family trying to piece together what exactly is happening. Why is her family dying hour by hour? Who's doing it? Who's behind it? And you're in this really kind of creepy old like house where it creaks and stuff like that, and it's seawater. It's just, the writing with the atmospheric tones in this was amazing. I loved it and would highly recommend reading it right now because it's like a perfect book to read on a really rainy day. It's a perfect book to read on a really rainy night with a candle lit. Like, oh, gosh, the vibes are immaculate with it. But I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I definitely could tell the twist coming from a mile away, but it's still, the way she wrote it was still very enjoyable, and the atmospheric tone of it made me just really, really like it. It's definitely my favorite Alice Feeney book I've read thus far, and I could see a lot of people really loving this as well. So I liked it, would highly recommend it. It's a short, quick one too. Like, it's like not even, I think it's, yeah, it's just over 300 pages, so you can fly through this very quickly. Next up, we have another very atmospheric book, and that is Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This was on my radar for a while because the cover, and it just was about kind of like another kind of creepy atmospheric island. So in this book, we follow two characters, Emery and August. Emery lives on this island called Sorsha Island. It's off of Puget Sound, like, so, you know, it's off of Puget Sound, and basically the island life is all she's ever known. And she was in love with this guy named August for forever, and then something happened that made August and his mom like leave the island and never come back. So now Emery's kind of stuck at this island. She's running her late mother's like tea shop where she could do tea readings because she's also kind of witchy, like her family is witchy and kind of can do spells and things like that. And then one day August comes back on the island, and he's there to bury his mother who's passed away. And as soon as he gets there, everyone is really upset because of something that happened on a night many years ago. Everyone hates August. They think he killed this young girl named Lily who was best friends with Emery. And so when he comes back, a lot of things stir up. Emery's feeling a lot of feelings because she still loves him, but she also is like, I should hate you because of things that have happened. But as time goes on and the more time he spends there, you start to learn more about that night, and maybe that August isn't guilty as everyone thinks that he is. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. Again, another 4.5 out of 5, where it was just almost there. Again, the atmospheric writing was great. This island was dark and creepy and wet and kind of cold, if you will, and it was kind of like on this tail end like of fall, kind of going into a very crisp winter. Also, one thing that I did not like about it was that it kind of read witchy. Like, you know, Emery's family was very witchy and had all the witchy vibes and things like that, but they weren't overt, like they didn't talk more about it. I kind of wanted more witchy vibes, if you will. It was mainly about this small island and the people that live there and how deceitful they are about like hiding things and keeping people safe and keeping secrets and things like that. So it's, I think, a book that is, yes, very atmospheric and has kind of a mystery thriller at like the tail end of it, but it's mainly about like the deceitfulness of like small towns and like a small island and how people cling together. But I still really enjoyed it. The love story was very interesting between August and Emery. It's got that second chance romance going on, but again, I think the writing was just fantastic with the atmospheric vibe to it and the creep and dark island. I really enjoyed it. So 4.5 out of 5. Again, this is one, I don't know if it will blow up or anything, but if you want another book like Daisy Darker, where if you want to read it on like a cold, wet, rainy night with a candle burning, this one is perfect for that. I don't know. I love all the dark atmospheric reads this year, and especially this time of year. I think we all do. And this one definitely fits the bill. It wasn't quite there for me, but I still really enjoyed it. And the last book I'm talking about today is a romance book, and that is Angelika Frankensten Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. If you haven't heard, Sally Thorne is a very popular romance author. She wrote The Hating Game, which is like a very, very popular romance book, personally my favorite romance book, and this is her first foray into historical romance, which I don't read enough of. But this, if you can't tell by the name of it, is kind of a spin on the classic Frankenstein. So in this book we follow a character named Angelika, who is sisters with Victor Frankenstein. And if you don't know, Victor Frankenstein has, you know, is a scientist and makes dead people come back to life. He makes his creation the monster. He makes the creations the monster. And in this book, Angelika is tired of being a spinster. She's 24 because she's old, you know, back in the day, so that was considered like being a spinster and never ever marrying or having kids. Oh my gosh. But she's just tired of not finding the right men, so she decides to kind of make her own. And so she goes, her and her brother go to the morgue and they find different body parts and faces, things like that, and Victor brings them back to life, and what do you know, it works. And so this guy wakes up and he's like, where am I? I don't know who you are. And he's having a lot of mixed feelings about it. So they call him Will because, you know, he's literally a guy with a head that, like, he's like, from the neck down, I don't know who I am. Like, he doesn't remember anything because he passed away. He's like, these are not my arms, these are not my legs, you know, who the heck am I? And Angelika's like, you know, like, I kind of made you for me to be my husband. And he's like, oh, I don't even know you, so like, what the heck? So basically they have to go on the hunt to try to figure out who he was before he died, and Angelika is just really hoping that he'll accept her and be with her because there definitely is chemistry there. But Will is like, I don't know who I am because I was dead like 24 hours ago. It was a fun read, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's like you have to suspend your disbelief with like Frankenstein and all things like that, but I had a good time with it. I'm very glad she wrote this. It's a great time to read it because, again, it's fall. Frankenstein makes you think of fall, you know, with monsters and things like that. And I love the relationship between Victor and Angelika, how he calls her Jelly. It's so cute. And I love, you know, Angelika was a great character. She was very fiery. She was very passionate. You know, she was very, you know, advanced for, I think, back in the day, like times like that. I don't know when exactly this took place, early 1900s or something like that. But either way, it was a fun time. I would give it a 4 out of 5. Like, if you just want like a fun spin on Frankenstein with a lot of romance into it, this is a great one to read. It was just a, you know, with all the dark atmospheric books I talked about today, if you know, Halloween-ish, that's, if you want a lighthearted one that's kind of Halloween-ish but also romantic, this is a great one to check out, honestly. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts and feelings about these. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts and feelings about 4 books. And I have to say, this is the first time I've done a recent reads in a while where I have really enjoyed all the books I've talked about today. All of them are great in their own right. A cozy, heartwarming one, go with this one. If you want dark, atmospheric, go with Daisy Darker, Spells for Forgetting. And if you want like kind of a Halloween one that's romantic, go with this one. So all of them I would recommend. They're all great. I would love to know your thoughts and feelings on them. If you've read them, or maybe if I've convinced you to read them, please let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.